that crossroads,
yep,
you might see right at that crossroads a crashed airplane. Your 8 o'clock right there.
Wow, that's hard to see.
Zero now.
Clear direct 16, then fly the runway 22 left, transition.
Hello aviators, welcome back to the Finer Points. Those of you that know me know I'm passionate about pilots mitigating all the risks they can. So I always encourage pilots to file flight plans when over remote or rugged terrain, to carry personal locator beacons, and at least twice a year the Finer Points hosts adventure training trips where we take pilots out to mountainous environments or out to the San Juan Islands, and we teach them discovery/survival skills, how to get seen from the air and how to use signal mirrors, how to spend an unexpected night out, starting fires or whatever other skills they need to have. Well, recently when I was in Chicago, I was fortunate enough to hook up with an old friend, Major Rod Rakic from the Civil Air Patrol, and these are the volunteer folks that are actually out there, spending their own time training to go find you if you're ever that pilot that needs to be rescued. So it was super educational to see all of this from their side, to see just how hard it is to spot a light aircraft from the air, and we'll get to that in a moment. But really, Rod was kind enough to take me through an entire C.A.P. training mission. We're here at Chicago Executive Airport, the first airport I ever flew out of, and this is how it went. Let's check it out.
We actually have a simulated emergency where multiple aircraft have gone missing after a simulated storm system has moved through the Midwest. And so we've got a search grid in the kind of west and southwest area of the Chicago Class Bravo that we've mapped out. I'll show you that here. We're going to plan the flight, brief the flight here on the ground, and then go fly the flight as briefed. We're going to be doing two search grids, ORD 338 Alpha and ORD 243 Charlie. I've got a grid search mapped out, as well as what we call a creeping line search. So a couple of different patterns that we use to be able to give the mission scanner and the air crew the best probability of detection.
So the start of this entire sequence is that, an ELT goes off, or a personal locator beacon is activated, or you filed a flight plan and you simply don't turn up where you're supposed to. There is some kind of chain reaction started, usually involves some sort of Air Force Rescue Coordination Center, or a NOAA SARSAT Operations Center, but eventually word gets to the Civil Air Patrol, and I asked Rod what it looks like from their side.
Because we're not sitting around a firehouse waiting for the bell to ring. We're at our day jobs, we're home in bed. They build up air crews, and then we show up and do the work. We plan and brief the sortie and go fly the sortie.
7 minutes, enough time to give me just a very, very brief history of C.A.P.?
Sure. Before World War II started,
Beyond 645 Bravo, connect Chicago Center 119.22.
Before World War II started, folks in general aviation knew that they could be a support to the war effort. They knew that general aviation was probably going to stop once the war started, and so they wanted to be part of the fight. We flew patrols on the coasts, we towed targets, and we trained cadets to help
American 1734 Chicago Center, roger. Descend and maintain flight level 210.
To help the Army stand up the Army Air Corps. And so after the war, there still was a need for search and rescue.
1734, clear direct turtle, maintain 300 knots.
So really, the fact that it's an Air Force auxiliary, it's really the route that grew into the Army Air Corps, which eventually grew into the Air Force.
Descend and maintain 1000, O'Hare's altimeter 3009.
Civil Air Patrol actually predated the Air Force.
Yeah.
And then when the War Department became the Defense Department, Civil Air Patrol became the auxiliary.
Expedite your descent through flight level 190, descend and maintain 1000.
So these folks might be volunteers, but they are really approaching this with a very serious attitude and working to achieve a military level of precision. And you know, I'm all about, you know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Let's emulate what's working. So what we have here is a professional 2-crew flight operation. And I think there's a lot that we can gain as general aviation pilots or flight instructors or things that we want to take from this and sort of build into our own programs or our own training programs.
So it's really a crew concept where even though we're flying general aviation aircraft, we're flying as a crew. And so the mission pilot flies, the mission is briefed. They're the aircraft commander, they're in charge of safety of flight. The mission observer in the front right seat may or may not be a licensed pilot, but they're really trained to be the quarterback. They're actually running the mission. They're communicating with the mission base on the ground. They're talking to ground teams on the ground, other agencies, handling sort of the navigation and helping the pilot put the aircraft in a place where the mission scanner or airborne photographer, depending on the mission, that's sitting in the back can do their job. And a lot of time that job is done with the Mark I eyeball. Now with ForeFlight, we've got very good SA on sort of position, and the tool makes the planning very easy.
And for those that didn't know, ForeFlight is really doing their part here. If you go into settings and enable your SAR search and rescue features, you can then overlay C.A.P. search and rescue grids onto the maps page, going above and beyond to help C.A.P. pilots and help you get found.
Okay, so here in ForeFlight, I've done the weight and balance. With pilot and co-pilot, how much fuel. We've got 64 gallons, which is our standard load for the 182, so that's sort of the bottom of the filler necks on the Skylane. And that actually shows us that we're actually in the envelope the entire flight all the way to zero fuel. And importantly, we're actually below the landing limit. So if we, for instance, have to cut things short and come right back, we don't have to stick around and burn off fuel before we can land. We're actually within our landing limits.
So I just love this. Every time these guys fly, before they go out on a mission, they're looking at weight and balance and actually cross-checking it with somebody. They're looking at takeoff and landing distances, and they're going through what we would call a FRAT tool, a flight risk analysis tool. And Rod, what do you guys call it?
Operational risk management.
Operational risk management. So this is like every time they fly. So anyway, if you're, you know, a CFI, just consider having your students do something like this before every flight, just to get into the habit of it and develop that primacy early on. And if you're already a pilot, consider adding this to your repertoire.
Today, no instrument flight.
So here you can see Rod going through the operational risk management worksheet, just answering questions, and eventually we make a call to the flight release officer to go over our plan with him.
Okay, well then why don't you walk me through where you're intending to fly, and we'll mission, and we'll go ahead and run the checklist.
And finally, we hear the magic words that were released for the mission.
Well then, sir, you are released. Have a safe flight.
And just like that, I was wheels up again from Chicago Executive Airport. This flight was a little bit of a trip down memory lane. I grew up here, directly under our route of flight.
Our target today is a missing twin-engine airplane, light twin-engine airplane, type unknown. All right. A lot of times, you're not quite clear on why you're doing what you are expected to do. Why are we flying this grid instead of that grid?
Right.
As a mission crew, it's professional flying like anything. You're trusting the professionals that you're working with to be giving you taskings that will help, you know, produce the outcome we're looking for, which is, you know, finding the aircraft or getting the imagery we need where the mission is.
Right. Perfect. All right, we're level.
All right, this altitude gives you 1,000 feet above the ground, bang on.
210, that's Airbus 321.
Pressure, temperature, all gauges look good.
All right, come left, 180 now.
Clear direct 60, then fly the runway 22 left, transition.
What you really want to do is pick a point on the horizon and fly that point, and then you're just checking your work with the
960 cross ND to maintain 6,000.
It's really a visual maneuver.
Okay.
So we're in grid now. The mission observer is going to be monitoring the navigation. The pilot's going to be really looking for obstructions and traffic and making sure that we're flying safely. The mission scanner in the back seat would be scanning the ground really methodically to make sure that they're giving us the best probability detection.
Okay.
That crossroads,
Yep.
you might see right at that crossroads a crashed airplane. Your 8 o'clock right there.
Wow. That's hard to see.
Yeah. So on this pass, it's harder to see, but the mission scanner probably would have picked that up.
Wow.
Right? Because he's at about a 45 degree.
That's out in the middle of an open field.
Yeah. That's the job.
Dude. I don't know that I would have recognized that as a crashed airplane. So that you're obviously trained in identification.
Correct. So the one thing we've always learned, the one thing that we teach is that crashed airplanes don't look like airplanes.
Right.
Right? And so you're looking for the signs of a crashed airplane more than the crashed airplane.
Yeah, it's just now, and we're looking at an airplane on a stick in a field. Like if you were in the forest in, say, like a Satabria, where half the plane burned in the crash. I mean,
and we'd be looking for the signs of that crash is just as much as the crash site itself, because the crash is hard to pick out in the ground clutter.
Now keep in mind that I'm zoomed in a little bit here. This aircraft is in an open field and we know exactly where it is. Think about this the next time you fill out the route segment of your flight plan.
Yeah, this is the angle. Certain angles will make it obvious.
Right, and that's why we fly these grids. That's why no grid is 100% POD. You're never going to fly a flight that has 100% probability of detection. You may have to go overfly a target multiple times in order to identify it as a crashed airplane.
So you can see just how hard it is to spot a light aircraft, and hopefully that will get you thinking a little bit about, packing some pyrotechnic signaling devices, or, coming on an adventure trip and learning how to use a signal mirror, or there's all sorts of other tricks, but really just helping C.A.P. see you, because it is not easy. And that was a plane in an open field. I mean, can you imagine if you were buried in among the trees? So anyway, a huge education there. My thanks to Rod Rakic for flying that mission with me. I had to cut a lot of stuff out of that, so if you're interested in seeing extra bits of this mission, please consider coming by patreon.com/learntfp and becoming a patron. My thanks to the sponsors and to the patrons. Without that support, these videos would just not be possible. Also to Michael Bizar, who composes and performs all the music you hear in these videos, makes editing such a joy. Please like this video, subscribe to the channel, share amongst your friends, and my thanks to you for watching it. Until next time, be safe, fly your best.
Our aim is not to be good general aviation pilots. Our aim is to be aviators who can employ this equipment to do a job.
Right.